I'm going to welcome Amy and Dave to the stage because this actually all started because Amy Sarno, our AZAC chapter president, approached me and asked if we could bring an additional speaker and that they were wanting to bring here and share a story with you. And I said, of course. So we're excited to have Dave Johnson here, but I'm going to let Amy take over the show for today. So thanks for coming.
Thanks, Stacia. So Dave is a pretty awesome guy, and I'm really, really glad that he came here to speak with us from Colorado, and thank you all so much for coming. Dave has been working with animals since he was 15 and has been a keeper for about 35 years almost, technically, and has been out in Denver a little over 20. And started this foundation, the Katie Adamson Conservation Fund, about 4 years ago, and has been doing some really amazing stuff. And I think for me, the inspiration is that he is a keeper and he is doing all the things that we all want to do and making that happen and making that all this amazing work happen for so many other people. So he's going to take us on a little journey of some of the awesome stuff that he's doing, and then we'll have a little bit of time for questions afterwards. So thank you, everybody, for coming, and I'm going to turn it over to Dave.
Thanks, Amy. And thanks, Stacia. Thanks for having me out here today, guys. I really appreciate it. It's been quite a journey being at the Denver Zoo for over 20 years and having a remarkable community to develop some of this stuff with. And what you see on the screen right now is a little bit about me and about everything that I kind of feel wraps me up in a nutshell. So I'm a zookeeper, and that kind of defines me and what I do. And you'll see more about kind of what we do as zookeepers at the Denver Zoo. And the conservation component, I feel like zookeepers and zoos are feeling that that's more and more a necessity for what we do with our careers and showing off these amazing animals. My degree is in wildlife biology. So I actually wanted to work out in the field. But as most of you are learning probably in your career, sometimes it takes twists and turns. I write some kids' books about conservation, and that helps the fund generate income and interest in the community. But the biggest thing about what I do is defined by me being an animal nerd. And that is exactly, preaching to the choir here. If y'all are here on a snow day listening to a guy talk about conservation, you're probably all in the same boat as I am in. And this has been an interesting journey for me because my parents never knew where this came from. So me being an animal nerd, I was that nightmare child at zoos that none of you want to see here. I wanted to get closer to the animals. I wanted to climb fences, and I gave my pacifier to a spider monkey and got in trouble at a zoo. I ran with cheetahs. I put all these deer crackers in all my pockets and laid down out in the deer field, and my mom couldn't find me. She knew where I was by the laughter as the deer were eating all the crackers out of my pockets. And I pretended to be an ostrich for 3 days when I was younger. I was about 4 or 5, and my parents took me to a special person called a therapist. And so my mom was like, what is wrong with this child? Can I give him back? And the doctor's like, oh, he'll outgrow this. And my mom just loves telling everybody that I never did. So I'm 50 years old now, and I still, do all this animal stuff as a career, which is kind of fun. This is one of my favorite pictures in Nepal. We had to run from this herd of elephants. And it's like my Nat Geo photo. A hoofstock keeper took a picture of me taking pictures of these elephants. And it's pretty awesome when you get to go out in the field and you get to enjoy and be around all these wild animals. These brethren of all the animals we take care of every day. It's just life-changing to get to go out and work with these and see them in the wild. And you come back with this amazing community that you get to give back to. And I'll be going back to Nepal in February, and I'll be taking 24 people, and I will have taken 130 people over to Nepal to get partnering and passion going with one of our sister countries that has all the animals that I work with pretty much. So I'm just going to take you back a little bit and explain first off why I sound so country. I am from the mountains of North Carolina, and I grew up near Asheville, up in the hills on the Tennessee line in the Smokies. I was a whitewater rafting guide growing up. I grew up on the Appalachian Trail, and I always say that when I moved to Denver, it was like going from JV mountains to varsity. So I got to go to Colorado and the Rockies, which was pretty fun. But we laugh. I don't need an interpreter anymore. I've been in Colorado for no translator needed. But this is some of my historical pictures working with animals at different zoos and institutions. North Carolina, South Carolina, I helped raise wolf puppies. That baby mountain lion was, mom didn't take care of it, so helped raise that guy. And that's me working with my first Asian elephant, Donna. She was awesome. Donna loved men. She was really about all of her boys, and that's her putting her head down and squeaking and getting all excited. And that's the first time that I found out that animals can be very gender specific. So she loved men, but she could not stand women. And if you brought a girlfriend, your sister, your mom to see her, she would try to kill them. She would, if she couldn't reach them, she would throw copious amounts of organics at them if you brought any women around. So, but this is kind of some of my background. And I gave my wildlife biology degree a chance up in Alaska. So that is me on the left, up going and checking our bear traps with a sled dog. We were actually working up there, and that's some of our buckets of salmon bait that we use to try to trap bears and put radio collars on them. And that's me working with a great horned owl in Kentucky. So I was kind of a tumbleweed around the country, working in different places, trying to find my niche in the animal community, which can be very hard. And until I got to Denver, I was afraid that I was going to have too many stops and seem a little bit too fickle to be hireable. So I wanted to stay somewhere for 5 years, and now I've been at the Denver Zoo for 21. So this is some of the radio telemetry stuff that we were doing with the bears. They found I was a whitewater rafting guide. I'd worked with bears. I'd used all the anesthesia on bears in South Carolina, and so it was a good job for me with the Bureau of Land Management to trap and put collars on bears up there. They had a couple of fatalities with people up there north of Fairbanks, and so I went up and worked as a 9-month seasonal. But what I realized, guys, is that sometimes your animal career takes these twists. The bear biologist I worked with was just not a people person, which can be true for animal people. Some animal people don't want to be around other people, and that's why they work with animals. He gave me a gold pan and told me to go pan for gold and fish if we weren't catching bears and to leave him alone. He didn't want to talk to me. So I had my feelings hurt for like 9 months because I'm very social, and I had 1,000 questions I wanted to ask him, and he wanted to have nothing to do with me. So I realized maybe the zoo, maybe something more social was more into my field. And so this is me arriving at the Denver Zoo and working free contact with our Asian elephants. I'm patting Mimi's tongue there. She's the big girl on the right. Mimi lived at our zoo for over 50 years. She was kind of iconic with our community. She passed away a few years ago. She was 53 when she died. And Dolly is the one on the left. And they're the reason that I started writing kids' books, because I wanted our community to really learn about these girls that had been at our zoo for decades and got to really meet people in the community that had kids and grandkids that all knew these elephants. I trained these girls to recycle and started a recycle movement in Denver that I got nagged at by a lot of the parents because their kids started wanting to recycle like our elephants did, which was kind of fun to create some change. And being a zookeeper, one of the stories I like to tell that really got me invested in trying to do more with my profession is I was playing in a basketball tournament and jumping center and getting introductions with everybody on the court. And this man came over and shook my hand and pulled me in close, and he said, "Would you wave to my 2 sons over there?" And I thought, well, that's creepy. But I waved to his children, and I was like, "What's going on?" And he said, "Well, they recognize you as the elephant keeper at the zoo." And I had basketball gear on. I didn't have anything zoo. They hadn't heard me speak hillbilly, so they, weren't associating anything but, that's that guy that talks about pachyderms every weekend. So that led me to start realizing that zookeepers have a huge role to play in their community, and we can pass on that animal passion. And I think it's really exciting to be able to do that for your community. And it seems like you guys have a great one here in Kansas City as well. So this is the way you get people to be passionate about elephants. This girl wanted to kiss an elephant. So she's given Dolly some sugar. She's going to trade that kiss for an apple. And Mimi outweighed Dolly by about a ton. And so Mimi is coming in to steal the apple. She didn't have to get the sugar, but if you outweigh your roommate by a ton, you can kind of take whatever. And so Mimi's coming in for the steal. But this is kind of some of the ways that you can kind of garner interest and passion with the community. We have all bulls now. We're protected contact, and nobody gets to kiss elephants at our zoo now. So this is a very old picture. We don't let them close to our bulls because they would come away probably with more than some sugar. But this is me doing some vet care with our hippo Bert. Bert lost a tooth, so I'm just putting some saline solution into his socket. So some of the things that we get to do with our animals at the zoo. That extended reach is kind of important. Bert lived to be 58 at our facility, at our zoo 56 years, and he had 30 babies at our zoo, and we actually could not stop him from reproducing. We tried different means, and hippo's gestation is only 8 months, and so they kept having babies and babies. Even before we got his daughter out to Calgary Zoo, he fathered a calf with his daughter too. So they would not let me do any hillbilly demos with the inbreeding hippos. They said no to that. But this was our team when Toyota Elephant Passage opened. This is all of our guys that opened up a new $52 million facility, 10 acres. You guys have an expanse here. It's beautiful. We're kind of stuck in the city on 80 acres and kind of have to keep reinventing ourselves. And so we took all of our North American exhibits and got rid of bison, muskoxen, pronghorn, and we turned this into 10 acres of Asian elephants and greater one-horn rhinos. And so that's all of our team. And what we were doing, guys, is getting a new species at our zoo called the greater one-horn rhino. Their scientific name is Rhinoceros unicornis. I thought it was pretty cool that we were getting a new species. Our zoo is 122 years old. So to be getting a new animal in, I wanted to excite our community. I wanted to get everybody engaged. So I wanted to go over, they only are found, greater one-horn rhinos and Asian elephants only occupy 2 countries together, and that's India and Nepal. So I wanted to partner and get our community over and get everybody excited about a new rhino species because I was super excited about getting a new rhino. So this is one of the graphics that we made, and I started taking people over in 2010, and I called ourselves Team Nepalorado. And that's a fusion of cultures in the name of conservation. So I kind of fused our names together and was just really excited about being able to take a group of people over. And from 4 people in 2010 to 11 people in 2011 to finally we got up 16, 18, and now next year, sadly, I have to take 24 people. It's going to be a big trip. So I started raising money and doing everything I could to promote conservation. So I ran in races, I was climbing mountains, I was doing everything, making T-shirts. Amy in the AZAC chapter probably knows. You do everything you can to promote your passion and to get people excited. So I made Mimi Marathon T-shirts for years, and I would run a half marathon. We had a team that ran in the team marathon. But in 2010, I finally decided to suck it up and run a full marathon, so 26 miles. So you guys see me, about 190 is my carrying weight usually, and that's Dave Light up there on the left. That's me at 168 pounds running races for elephants. So I finished in just under 4 hours, and I said I will probably never run a marathon again. That was a lot of training. Now I write books, and I do talks, and I get fat, and which is either lazy or smart. I'm not sure, depending on who you speak to. But from that year, we raised $10,000 that summer, and we bought anti-poaching motorbikes for the team in Chitwan National Park that we could present to them. They are fighting poaching in this park with on elephant back, on foot, on bicycle. And these guys have Jeeps and automatic weapons. Kind of not a fair fight. So we took over $10,000 to buy these anti-poaching motorbikes because that's what they said they wanted. So we started our journey off that way. The next year we raised $12,000, and we built these solar-powered electric fences. So once we started going there, you start learning kind of what the needs, what the necessity is. Human-animal conflict is a big problem over in Asia. You know, you have elephants coming into villages and eating all their food. You have rhinos coming in and destroying houses. You've got tigers killing Uncle Joe And so living next door to all this wildlife, in order to be impactful and help animals, a lot of times as I've been doing these trips and learning about human contact over there, you need to help the people in order to get your foot in the door to help the wildlife. And so that's what's been a necessity for us, is to do things like this solar-powered electric fence to help people protect their crops, their families, their houses. We do have some video of a bull elephant pushing another bull elephant through an electric fence. So elephants are smart. They learn ways around it. They can ground out the cables with their tusks that don't conduct electricity and break them. They push trees down over, or they push young subordinate males through the fence, and then everybody gets to go and eat. So you got to be thinking of different things to combat some of these problems. Every year we were going, we were discovering that these little orphan rhinos were around being taken care of by the military. Nepal was suffering from 10 or 12 poaching incidents a year in Chitwan National Park, which is a lot for a national park to sustain, especially with the population of greater one-horned rhinos then was about 2,700 in the wild. So not many. The front rhino here, her name was Narayani. She was found on the Narayani River. So following up my Elephants of Denver book, I wrote a book about this little girl. She was first found first year we were there, 2010. So Narayani has these two males behind her. She survived being taken care of by these military guards that don't have a lot of training or facilities. The two young males in the back passed away. They had some parasite issues. They weren't being taken care of really well. So we got Narayani. We helped them get her up to the Central Zoo up in Kathmandu to take care of her. And this is one of our group pictures. Lindy's in this one. She's in the back. She's been in Nepal with us several times. But this is one of our Team Nepalorado groups. This is an amazing opportunity to get to be around some of these orphan rhinos, but it's also something that we don't want to keep happening. We don't want to have these orphan rhinos treated like big dogs around the NTNC. That's one of our partners, the National Trust for Nature Conservation. We want them to be rehabilitated and put back into the wild. So we are doing things to help with this, and doing stuff like this is me with another one of the little males. This is Bongi, and he had been attacked by a tiger, and you can see the bandaging and stuff. So tigers like to make meals of little baby rhinos. The mom fought the tiger off, but this baby still had injuries and needed to be taken care of by humans. And so Bongi and Biru are both at the Central Zoo up in Kathmandu. This is the old veterinary hospital that we kept seeing every year we would go over, and it just was dilapidated, run down, no power most of the time, just boxes and cobwebs. So we decided as a group that we would help them build a new vet hospital. And this is what we got to see last October when our community went. We had 18 of us last year, and we have donated now from our community $42,500 to build a vet hospital. And this is going to help everything from elephants and tigers, primates, birds, deer, to gharial and some of the other animals that live in Nepal. So this is going to be a DNA lab. It's going to be pretty impressive. Just sent a couple of vet techs over there, and the hospital isn't quite open yet. They kind of fibbed about it being ready to open, and the vet techs went over there, and it wasn't ready. So, which is one of the things you deal with trying to do international conservation. So we've helped with some money to translocate rhinos too. Chitwan National Park has over 600 of these greater one-horned rhinos. Two of the other parks in Nepal, Suklafanta has 12 now, and Bardia has 35. So Nepal is trying to get all their eggs out of one basket. So bring some rhinos into areas that had been heavily poached in the past. So that's part of, we are helping with NTNC and WWF Nepal move rhinos. And last year we moved 10 rhinos to other parks, including a female that months later had a little calf. So we like to say that we moved 11 rhinos. We've got several of them with radio telemetry collars on, so we can find them. I took this picture on the back of an elephant. So we do We do elephant back rides, which is controversial for some people. But I like to tell all of our people that you need to have a bigger global view going over and not to be so restrictive in your mindset. They use these elephants for censusing rhino populations. They use them to go through the park and count tigers. They use them for anti-poaching runs. They wouldn't be able to get to different parts of the park if they didn't have elephants. And we ride horses in our community, so I felt like, riding elephants would be something that we should be a little bit more open to as a community. So we go over and we do ride elephants with the anti-poaching team. But what I did, I wanted to start a nonprofit. And so in 2014, I got the impetus to finally get off my butt and do something about it. This is Katie Adamson. She was a zoo crew member at our zoo from age 13. She joined my Zoo Explorer post at age 14 and worked with me for 9 years at the zoo in different capacities, from intern to temp keeper. She was at CSU as a freshman, and she got Ewing sarcoma. And so she got hit by this childhood cancer in her back. She fought it off a couple times, went back to school, and then finally her senior year, she succumbed to the cancer. And she passed away. And what we did, I went to her parents, and I said, hey, I'd really like to do something special. I've been thinking about this for a long time, but losing Katie really makes me want to do something. So we started the Katie Adamson Conservation Fund with some keepers and with her parents. And I'm happy to say that in February, her mom and dad and aunt and uncle finally feel like they can go and see all the stuff we're doing. It's just been a painful process for them, but they're going to go with us to Nepal. So this is our organization. And that's one of my greater one-horn rhino pictures is part of our logo. And it's been pretty special to be able the last 4 years to build something around Katie's name and in her honor. And I think everybody's felt pretty good about how the growth has been. So all around Nepal where we work, they have different signage and stuff about all the partnering that we're doing. So this is the Chapang community. These guys are rhino poachers. A lot of their community has been imprisoned, locked up for killing those rhino. And from the first year when we started going, I said we were losing 10 to 12 rhino a year. Now in Chitwan National Park, we're losing one rhino about every other year. So, and that's pretty impactful in just a decade, what you can see the change. And I can't take all the credit for that. Maoist uprising ended in 2008. The military presence is bigger in the park again, protecting this wildlife. So, but it's kind of nice to be able to share some real positive statistics. And from 2,700 rhino, now there are over 3,400 greater one-horn rhino in India and Nepal. So, and I went to India, went to Kaziranga, got to meet all the partners that were on the ground doing all that stuff. Rhino Vision 2020, it's amazing. But I felt like they were heavily funded and doing a lot of really wonderful things, whereas Nepal had been stuck in the civil war. They lost 9,000 people in this Maoist uprising, and it was still on the, community watch. It was still, it wasn't advised to travel to Nepal when we started going over there, but things have changed a lot over the last few years. So we've been working with this community, and we help them build a fence. We help them, the Chapang, with sustainability, because we feel like if they have their families taken care of, that they're not going to need to poach rhinos. And so we have given them several $1,000s worth of beehives to create honey. And we made them this logo at Saving Rhinos is a Sweet Solution. And so we're taking shirts to them in February. This is the label that's on their honey. So they're selling honey at the market and saying that it's, a rhino conservation product, which is kind of fun. And so it's really good to be able to partner with these guys in the name of rhino conservation. One of the orphan rhinos, I tried to get into their community and have them take care of a rhino and use it for partnering and for conservation. And the government of Nepal laughed, and they were like, "You are crazy that you want to give a poaching community a rhino." I said, well, what better to show them that rhinos could have a better economical foundation for their community than poaching if they can actually be making money off of tourism. And I said, I can teach this rhino to paint with its upper lip like we do in Denver, and we could make paintings for tourism, and because this animal can't be released. We had a rhino in Nepal that got re-released after going through their program, and it ended up killing a villager, and it got put on trial for murder and found guilty of murder, and now it's in a boma in Bardia National Park. So they really, that's why all of the rhinos now are going to zoos instead of going back to the wild. So we partner with the Nepalese children and different groups, and this is them doing one of their skits. We help with their drama skits, and this street drama team, they travel around and they talk about living in harmony with elephants and rhinos and tigers. So we help with their costuming, and we also give them school scholarships. So that's me giving a presentation of a $2,000 check to their street drama group. I'm only 6 feet tall. I look like I'm gigantic in Nepal. So like I'm on their NBA team. But this is the community. And $100 US will send one of these kids to school for the whole year. Buy their school uniforms, their books, and everything. So that's 20 scholarships right there for potentially the future conservationists of Nepal that are getting out and making a difference. Since we've been doing that in Nepal, it has been found out, Dr. Lucy King in Kenya, with all of her research up in Samburu region, has found that elephants are scared of bees. So we have kind of been jumping on the bandwagon a little bit and moving beehive fences down into Tanzania and over into Nepal, because beehives can be watchdogs for the community. They'll scare elephants away. So this is our logo for the beehive fences that we're using in both countries. This is some of our beehives that we provide for these communities for honey and sustainability and protection. And this is one of our researchers, Roshan Thakur. He went and studied with Lucy King in Tanzania, and he is now hosting our people over in Nepal. And this beehive fence project, about every 10 meters you put a beehive, and it's got a cable between them. So if the elephant tries to sneak in between, it disrupts this cable that shakes, and the bees all come out. And we've got great video of bees chasing elephants away from farmland. So Roshan went and studied with Lucy King in Kenya, and now I'm sending him elephant zookeepers from our zoo and entomologists from the Butterfly Pavilion as a team. So the Butterfly Pavilion has my books, and they're helping raise money for our foundation. They've raised us $10,000. I went and talked to them, and it's part of this networking, like working with Amy and Lindy, is the more you network, the more friends you find in this animal nerd community. And they're like, we're an invertebrate zoo, Dave. You know, you're crazy coming here with your stories of pachyderms and everything. And I was like, well, here's the caveat. I said, bees and elephants, it's a good mix for us, for honey and for protection. And so they were like, okay, we'll take 30 books. You have to come help us with fundraising, and we'll start promoting your project. And so just had a zookeeper, Gabe Kaib, and Mario Padilla from the Butterfly Pavilion come back from installing beehive fences with Roshan. So it's kind of fun. Now the zoo is giving our staff admin leave, and Gabe and Mara Davis just got $3,000 to go work on this project over in Nepal. So I feel like our team is like a three-headed monster, helping our local community get involved in conservation, helping the community in these countries get an advancement in helping out their wildlife, and it's helping animals in these countries we're visiting. So there's a three-pronged attack here. And Ritika is one of our students that we promote and help. We started a wildlife conservation class with her at Tribhuvan University. $4,000 helped send 17 students all around Nepal doing conservation work. So Ritika had us out. We were planting trees with her community and picking up trash, and just some of the people that were helping. Shivish Bandari is our feline contact over there. He's doing camera trapping. He only had 2 camera traps when he started, and he said his dream was to have 12. And when we finished up taking him camera traps and going to listen to his lectures, we had given him 16 camera traps, and he is now in graduate school in Tennessee. So he is studying here in the U.S. We helped him go to the Smithsonian, take a GIS class, and so we're really being impactful in the community. And this is Gabe who went over to work with elephants. This is one of my colleagues in the elephant department. Him and his wife, Shayna, went and did elephant beehive work. And I was talking to you about climbing mountains. From our Bowling for Rhinos events with AZAC, I started realizing that, okay, we're kind of not building a community. People are tired of bowling. It's not as popular. So I started leading mountain climbs. Colorado has 54 peaks over 14,000 feet, and I was just climbing them for fun, for recreation. So I thought I'd take people out climbing for rhinos, and so we started that project. And this is 30 of us. We went and climbed Mount Elbert and developed a team with Climb for Conservation. These guys are out of Aspen. Totally different climbing team. If you look and see, you can probably tell all the zoo team from Denver versus all of the Aspen climbers. If anybody has $3,000 worth of climbing gear on, they're from Aspen. If anybody has zoo sweatshirts and their zoo boots on, that's from Denver. Our group take up beer and Cheez-Its when we make it to the mountain. Those guys took up champagne and strawberries dipped in chocolate. So totally different group. They took up brie, and so we were trading Cheez-Its for brie. So yeah, kind of fun. Also to work with a different community and be part of making a difference. So 2 years ago, decided to up the ante. I'd been to Tanzania once. I wanted to go climb Mount Kilimanjaro. So it was on my bucket list. Wanted to get up on the tallest mountain in Africa. So we took 20 people over to Tanzania for conservation, and we climbed the mountain. And that's me at the top of Kilimanjaro. We had 12 of our 20 summit. And if people tell you that climate change is not happening, that is not true. You'll look and see those are 130-foot tall glaciers over on the one side of the mountain, but the rest of the mountain is pretty barren. It's pretty desert. So places like some of the national parks in Africa, like on the Kenya side, Amboseli gets a lot of their water from this mountain. So it is actually really, really drying up there, and it doesn't have as much of the snow and ice as it used to. But so that was pretty exciting to get to go over. But we also had to see, it was my second time to Tanzania. Tanzania has lost half of their elephant population in the last 5 years. So when we went over there, very impacted by poaching, and a lot of their herds are very fragmented, and a lot of the elephants have really, really small ivory now. So, and it's becoming a thing. You don't find a lot of big elephants with big ivory anymore. And this is kind of typical of a herd of elephants now. And they're killing off all of the bigger, older animals. And especially hurtful is that they are taking some of these older matriarchs out of the herds and making all these younger females lead some of these family units, which can be very impactful. This is a little orphan elephant that we met in Mokomazi National Park. The mom had just been poached, and this little guy, they said, was probably 4 or 5 weeks old. So they weren't sure. The teething process is really tough for these guys, and they were giving it about a 50% chance to live. But this little guy made it, which was really great news to hear from Mokomazi. And we actually, what was exciting about this is they were flying black rhinos in from zoos in Europe and putting them back in the wild, which is really cool to me being a zookeeper. That's like dream come true kind of stuff. You get to take a zoo animal, get it back to the wild, especially a pachyderm. Now, wild is a little bit of a stretch. This is Alishka coming out of her boma. She was actually born in the Czech Republic. And this little girl, she was 3 years old, and she was donated by the Drakov, I think that's how you pronounce it, zoo in Czech Republic. And so we got to see her. They live in 30, 40-acre compounds and get to be with bulls and get to, but it's really such a war zone over there with rhinos that they can't release them out into the park yet. They protect them with dogs and drones and choppers and automatic weapons and trucks and stuff. So it's really kind of gang warfare going on over these rhinos. But Nepal or Tanzania only has around 90 rhinos left in their national parks, and 30 of them live in this protected setting at Mokomazi. And so we donated $10,000 to black rhino conservation work with those guys. And that year we started a soccer tournament in Tanzania to promote. So climbing the mountain, Mokamazi, and now working with this team having a soccer tournament right outside the Serengeti, which is kind of fun. I played soccer growing up, and these guys this is a group of Tanzanian boys playing soccer with a greater one-horn rhino on their jerseys, supported by a zoo group of people in Colorado. So kind of fun having this global partnership. But I found out this past year when me and Lindy went back, our team has done really well in all 3 years. And I was like, wow, our KACF team really kicked some butt in soccer. And when we went there, we realized that the semifinals and the finals, teams are wearing different jerseys. And our coordinator gives the best team the KACF jerseys. And so I was like, he was so proud, of that. And I was like, not the same team. I said, those team had a different jersey. He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, they won 4-2, very strong. They get your KACF jerseys today. I was like, okay, but that's like cheating. He goes, yes, like really happy. Makes donors happy. I was like, no, donor is not happy with cheating. He said, but what if you come back next year and you're not in the finals? I was like, that is okay. I said, I'd rather us support teams and have it be fair than you give the best team our jerseys. So don't know if that really sank in. His smile disappeared a little bit that I had called him out and found this out. But this is the first year, and our team won the cup amazingly. Won in 2016. So it's kind of fun. And this is me when me and Lindy went this past July at the soccer community. And this is all for elephants and rhinos, and really fun for us to get to watch these games and be a part of the community. The finals went into a shootout, and the whole community rushed the field after they won. It was great. And seeing our people just mobbed by all the kids in the community wanting to do pictures with you. And these guys are probably 17 to 25. They're soccer players, and it's great to be able to catch them at a time when they could be brought into the poaching industry. They could be actually brought into this kind of a crime syndicate that you want to kind of prevent. So it's great to have some impact there. This is our team with the soccer team. What we did this year is, since we were there, we took the winners out on safari with us into the Serengeti. Some of these kids had never been into the national park. It's just not available to them. It's too expensive. So we took all of them out on a safari with us, and we spread our group out amongst the vehicles. So 2 of us were in each vehicle with about 4 of the youth soccer players. So a little bit of a communication breakground. Had some issues getting the guides to be totally trying to translate for us, but it was a lot of fun. We made these shirts with the elephant and a soccer ball. We gave them to the community. This is Alfan Riha. He's actually one of our partners. He just got his PhD, and we're partnering with him for snare removal from Serengeti National Park. And we're actually helping him take snares and turn it into art with the community. So we have 10 poachers that have turned down their weapons, and they are our Boda Boda brothers, and they've turned into a community for us. So we're working with anti-poaching teams, snare removal, beehive project, and we also do this women's dance for conservation. And so these girls won the dance competition, so we got to dance with these guys. We were actually on the Tanzania news. Everything was in Swahili except for my hillbilly accent. It was kind of funny. They sent us a clip of it. But we got to dance with these ladies, and we donated $1,000 worth of beehive boxes for the beehive fences that the Boda Boda brothers are going to be taking care of. And the International Elephant Foundation partnered with us, and they matched us with $1,000. So I think next July we may be taking an IEF person with us on this tour if we go back. So what started off as just pachyderms has spread, and this is around one of my kids' books. And so in February, my month in February is jaguars. I wrote a book called The Zodiac Kid. It's my 3rd book, and it's about kids' birthdays. and having an animal that they could partner with for conservation. So what I realize is there's a missed understanding of the zodiac signs. Kids don't understand mid-month to mid-month, whether they're Sagittarius or Taurus or Aquarius. So I picked their zodiac signs by animals that need some conservation help all around the planet. Jaguar was the February month. So I took 18 people down to Costa Rica to do jaguar partnering. If you're a January kid, you're paired with polar bears. If you're December, your animal is rhinos. So I got like 12 big species that kids can help with conservation and be impactful. This is our mountain climbing group down in Costa Rica. We went and climbed some mountains. We did some sea turtle stuff because sea turtles are my August month. And we did some jaguar stuff because they're my February month. So fun branching out into some different species. And these are the zookeepers and the people that got conservation scholarships to go with me. So zoo explorers, primate keepers, hoofstock keepers, and one of our climb partners from New York that we took with us that we're doing all these climbs with around the planet. And these are some of our biologists. The guy in the green, Eduardo Correa, he's a jaguar conservationist that's been working with jags for 30 years. The guy in the tan in the middle there, he's the head of their anti-poaching community in Costa Rica. And then Ronald is in the gray shirt by me, and he's a primate biologist that's been doing work with howler monkeys and spider monkeys and stuff for about 30 years. And then April, she's my climbing buddy from New York that does a lot of these trips with us. So that was our Costa Rica trip. And just to show some of the other stuff we're doing, this is Keith Erickson, and we're doing some frog stuff with him in Ecuador. He's climbed Kilimanjaro with me. He climbed Costa Rica mountains with me. And he was like, hey, Dave, love what you're doing. But he said, I really want to work with frogs. That's my passion. So I said, well, find something that we can partner with. He found this organization out of Ecuador called Wakiri, and they're doing a lot of chytrid stuff down there. So sent $1,000 for chytrid swabbing and kits and stuff down with Wakiri in Ecuador, and got to send Keith for 2 weeks to work down in Ecuador with them. So I'm not just about pachyderms anymore, which is sometimes can be a cause of alarm to our pachyderm community, but it's fun to be branching out with some of these other people. One of the bird keepers, Anton at our zoo, got to send him down to, he went to Nepal with us. Then I got to send him down to work at Vulpro in South Africa because he loves vultures. So they're another species that really needs our help. And these are my 3 books. So Elephants of Denver, Narayani, and the Zodiac Kids. And so that's how I raise money and awareness and do speaking engagements around the country, trying to get a lot of involvement from everybody. So this is my December month. These are some of my pictures from Nepal that we turned into the book. So that pair of rhino, that mom and calf there, kind of cool story. Rafting will never be the same. We were rafting down the Karnali River. A tiger swam across the river in front of our boat. And so we pulled over on the side to try to see it more. It was roaring back and forth, and the guide was like, tiger date. So they were roaring back and forth. Were you on that trip with us, Lindy? Yeah, you were. That was, 2014. And then the mom and baby came out of the grasses. And so we got to see tiger, we got to see rhino, and we got back in the boats, and everybody was safe. Nobody had to run. So it was a good day. But so this is what I do at schools, and what's your sign is what I'm hoping kids, instead of an adult pickup line, now we're turning it into a conservation line for kids around the country to see what your totem is, your animal month. These are states that I've been in and done conservation work. I was here in Missouri back in the spring down at Dickerson Park, and one of the kids that had me out for her passion project got to go to Tanzania with us. So I'll get to add Kansas tomorrow to this map that we've been doing stuff. And this is where all we're working on the planet right now. Just as a little zookeeper fun organization, we're spreading our wings and stepping out a little bit all around the planet. But that is the end of my slideshow, and Amy is hovering, which means it's time to take some questions. So she was going to help me with my time. So this is like a human gong that is telling me that I should start asking you guys if you have things that you'd like to ask of me. Anything you'd like to know? Or, yes, sir.
So there on the mountain cliff, there was like in the corner like a Minecraft sword. Is that like an enchanted diamond sword?
The question is about the enchanted diamond sword of, is it Minecraft? Yeah, I get that question a lot. I didn't even notice that up on the top of Kilimanjaro. Somebody had carried it all the way up there and left that at the sign, and you're very observant. That's a question I get at most of the schools, and I was like, yeah, I guess that was a Minecraft sword, but yeah, you're right. I've had many kids point that out to me over the years, so I should probably try to remove that. So I think somebody just carried it up and left it. Yeah?
What was your, like, did you have to save a lot of money throughout your career, or
Did I save a lot of money? Being a zookeeper, that's really not something you can do. You can't really save a whole lot of money as a zookeeper. I try to save enough to be like pay for half of a trip, and then I put the rest on what's called a credit card. And I try to pay off the rest before my next trip. That's what I try to do. I'm lucky enough at the Denver Zoo. I'm a city employee. I'm an old guy. So I make a little bit more money than the foundation keepers that has kind of turned over, which is great for me. And I try to turn those extra funds into conservation. But, yeah, it's really hard as a zookeeper. And one of the things, too, if you lead these trips, I try to get zookeepers to go for free. I try to get corporate sponsors. I try to partner people with zookeepers to pay for their way because I know how tough it is. I try to go, I'm a little bit, I'm a bulldog. I go, and anybody that's got a rhino on their business, if they drive by me with elephant electrician, I get their number and I call them. I was like, hey, you can't utilize that without giving money to conservation. And so I'm kind of a stickler on you have to be part of our community. So one of our biggest donors is Steel Rhino. And so they gave us like $7,500 last year. And I try to put that back into conservation and help people go. And me being the trip leader, like if I take 15 people to Nepal, all I have to do is pay for my plane ticket. My in-country stuff is paid by the company as a trip leader. So that's one of the ways that you can save a little bit of money by taking these bigger trips. Once I learned that, I was like, wow, if I take 10, my trip is half price. So I have to buy a plane ticket and half of the price. But if I take 15, I get, all I have to do is pay for a plane ticket. So that can be, that can be a $1,200 plane ticket instead of like a $3,500 total bill. And I deal with all the headaches of promotion and getting everything together. So that helps. Other questions? Yeah, in the back.
easy question related to zoos in general.
Yes, sir.
The Denver Zoo is smaller than the Kansas City Zoo.
Yes.
But it seems like from what you said that you converted a lot of your space into use for endangered species. And as a strategy, as a zoo, you look at the Kansas City Zoo, you have a lot of small exhibits with a lot of animals that really aren't endangered. Could a zoo really be profitable if a zoo like Kansas City, if it dedicated more space to endangered species and had an outreach program to people and other natural habitats in the world to be successful like you are? And as a follow-on, not only can a zoo be profitable focusing on endangered species, but how would a zoo get started reaching out to indigenous populations? Because like you said, the anti-poaching, the people, that's really a key part of your program, and that's not something a zoo would normally do. How would you get started doing that?
Okay, well, if y'all didn't hear that, two-part question. It's about on profits with the zoo, working with endangered species, and then how to start contact and build that. And I think your zoo is already really starting that because Stacia, who is here, is actually a conservation coordinator now for this zoo. It's been 2 years. Is Stacia still here? So she was hired, came from the animal department, and she's the head of conservation now. She is a one-woman show working in a department with a lot of help from the community. But moving in a good direction, I think zoos can actually be more profitable if you work with endangered species and give them some land at your facility and have the teaching and the help internationally and globally by going and helping at these areas. I think because people now, the expectations are changing for zookeepers and for zoos, and people want the passion and the conservation. They want to know that their dollars are going more than just for rakes and wheelbarrows, and they want their zookeepers engaged, they want their zoo engaged. And so when you go around this zoo and you look at their orangutan facilities, their Sumatran tigers, their red pandas, these creatures are endangered, and getting the impact with young people, with students, I think is very important for your zoo to show a profit margin and show that they're changing with the times. So I think for me, my zoo is all the stuff that I'm doing has been outside of the zoo. And it's coming back into the zoo is now starting to commit resources and show interest. So I don't want you to think that our zoo is just like, conservation, this is great. I mean, we have something going on with Mongolia that's really big with our zoo. We have Lake Titicaca frogs in Peru. Our zoo is really into pockets of huge help, but we weren't doing anything with elephants and rhinos. So for me, I went to our VP of conservation, and I was just like, I don't want to just work with pika and prairie dogs and then move up the ladder to where I get to go to Mongolia and work with Cinereous vultures and Argali sheep. I said, I'm an older keeper, and I want to work with elephants and rhinos, the species that I work with, that really, you could, if you've got $52 million to spend on a facility, you really should be doing some outreach and getting people excited about that. So they gave me admin leave for a couple of trips, and then they just let me kind of do my own thing. They kind of let me step out. But where I see your zoo being a little bit different is what Stacia is doing is letting zookeepers come and ask for projects and programs. And like, say, Amy here, I want to go to Nepal, and I want to work with red pandas. So she actually has to have the impetus to find a project, find somebody doing red panda work, and then bring it. And I think, from what we talked about, get approved by the zoo to go do these things. But it's turning over conservation to the people that should be doing it to create this conservation education connection with the community, which I think is brilliant. Because I think there's not going to be, what I've been trying to do in Denver is help keepers that are banging their head against the wall because they want to work with a species, they want to work in a country that they can't get approval from the zoo to do, and they have these set destinations in mind, which are great for some of the frog keepers in Tropical Discovery that love going to Peru and working with Lake Titicaca frogs. And I love that for them, but I'm not going to get a lot of gratification coming and talking to our community about me being in Lake Titicaca and working with frogs. It's not something that is going to be such a good thing to share with the community that always comes to talk to me about elephants and rhinos. But I think the profit lies in zoos embracing the conservation connection and a change and I think with the climate that we have today, I think people now want to see conservation. They want to see a zoo doing more for the planet than just housing these animals and showing them off. And I think that has happened in my career, that change, and I've been very embracing of it. But there are some old keepers at our zoo that don't want to go out in the field. They don't want to go out of their enclosure. They want to be behind the scenes. You can't make them go talk to people. And they try to go to break when the zoo isn't open yet so they can get coffee so they don't have to run into kids. Whereas I try to get people engaged, and it's the kids, it's the future for us, for zoos, that we embrace them and get them interested and invested. To me, I think that's where zoos are moving, and I think your zoo is probably ahead of the curve in doing what Stacia and some of these zookeepers are. So from what I heard today, I was very proud of the direction that this facility is going in. And it looks like a wonderful place to be a keeper. And what I hope to do is allow the books and my fund to help. You know, I'd love to help Amy sell books with AZAC and maybe go with one of our Red Panda trips and have her trip funded to where she can actually go and not, you know, have to sell her car or have to give away 2 of her dogs to be able to afford a trip. So, other questions? Do we have time? Now I'm getting closed in by everybody. Uh-oh, it's a gong and a hook. Anybody else have anything? One more? One more question. I think we have a bird show coming on in here in a little bit, don't we? Nobody else? Okay, I have, yes, sir. Minecraft? Bird show's at 2:30? Okay. Are you a member of the staff? Do you fly birds here? So if you guys, I have some bracelets from our organization if you want some bracelets. I have some business cards, and I have copies of my books. We're going to try to get them in your gift shop maybe next year, and the sales would then help to provide keeper travel funds. So I try to split 50-50 with conservation and keeper travel. So if your zoo has them, we can start, and then you can apply, and hopefully Stacia can help you get these funds to go to these places. Guys, thanks for coming out on a snow day and listening to me hillbilly it up. I appreciate it.
We'll have a little time if anybody has any questions just outside the lobby for a little bit if you want to get some more questions in with Dave. But thank you guys for coming, and enjoy the rest of your day.
I just have one thing. Thanks again. It was wonderful, Dave, and I'm glad you could be here. Dave was our additional December speaker, so we will have another conservation lecture series on the 13th featuring Dr. Moorfeld, who's doing our African elephant reproduction conservation initiative. So that will be our last one of this year, and then I'll be sending out in the next couple weeks what the speakers will be for the first 4 months of 2019. So stay tuned. Thanks, guys.